Denver Riggleman is going to be joining us momentarily, Denver. So I'm going to say this before you actually engage in the conversation. Guess what else the riggers are doing? Riggers love to rig. So not only do they rig the convention, but here's what else they do. They don't let the media see the rigging. So they cut out the media. Yet, once again, it's their New Shores ploy. Don't let the media come. Rope them off. Make them stand far away from all the action so they can't oversee anything. So they put this out on Zoom yesterday. The riggers, once again, the riggers put out, led by Bob Good and the other corrupt people, the media outlets, you have to get credentials to go to the drive-in movie. It's just like, okay, I got to apply for credentials to get to the drive-by convention or whatever the hell it is. Then I only get one credential, so I can't have anybody with me. So if I'm trying to do a radio show, too bad, dude, you're on your own. You have to get carried in a backpack. Oh, and guess what else? You have to park in designated spots in the upper parking lot, and you can't actually see the event. And there's going to be, you have to have a tag identifying yourself, lest you be not media. And you're going to be in a roped off portion far away from the event. So when people are trying to get their vote counted because they were 10 minutes late because they stopped at McDonald's and got a hamburger or a cup of coffee and the line was long and their vote gets thrown out, well, the media can't report it. That's the rigging way. All coming up this Saturday somewhere near Bob Good's house. Joining us now is Denver Riggleman. He's on the other side of the rigging, and he's with us now running for Congress. His nomination is going to be decided in a rigged, corrupt convention drive-by on Saturday. Denver, great to have you with us.
Hey, John, don't hold back, though. You know, don't hold back on how you feel about this. I don't want you to ever do that. It's been pretty crazy, I'll tell you that.
It's sick, okay? It's not crazy. It is sick. And if we continue to allow this nonsense at these conventions that they rig Denver to go on and on and on with no oversight, no media, nothing, they just cheat, steal in order to nominate the people they want, there's never going to be a party of any significance with an R by it. It's a complete disgrace what is going on. There's one... Some people in the district have to drive 6 hours round trip in order to put a ballot in a cardboard box. I mean, all you guys did, it's insane.
It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And, you know, you have rules that were already convoluted and bizarre for the normal convention. This has become a joke. And I think, you know, the president's team is aware of this. And the question I keep getting asked, John, is how could you have an election like this where voters are disenfranchised at this rate? And how could you have something like this where I call it the Dairy Queen convention, where we're now to a hybrid drive-through in one location in a district bigger than New Jersey to try to limit the number of voters that can participate. I haven't been in politics long, but I think normal thinking American dream folks look at this and they're incredulous. They can't believe that this is real. And it's a frightening thing for Republicans in Virginia to have groups making these kind of rules that are this nonsensical.
Denver Riggleman with us running for Congress. His fate of whether or not he's a Republican nominee will be decided Saturday at a drive-by, what they call unassembled convention, one voting location in a district bigger than New Jersey, 10,000 square miles, 5th district, one voting location, 15 minutes from Bob Good's house. He's Denver's opponent. If you live in parts of the district, you have to drive 6 or 7 hours round trip to put a piece of paper in a box. And you have to be there at a certain time. There's time frames they have. So let's say you have to stop for gas and there's a line for the gas, or you got to go inside because it doesn't take your credit card and you're 5 minutes late. Then the Credentials Committee, which is controlled by the riggers, can throw out your vote if you're voting for Denver Riggleman. I am not making this up. This is not The Onion. This is a radio show. What has gone on there is just beyond me. And they keep doing it, and we keep saying it's okay, and there's no oversight. Republican Party hasn't stepped in. By the way, Denver Riggleman has been endorsed by President Trump. He wants Denver back in Congress. He said, I'm going to get reelected. I need a Republican House. I need somebody that's got my back. I want Denver Riggleman. So if you're voting for Bob Good, basically, here's what Bob said. Boy, there's 17 people running for president in 2016. Trump is my 17th choice. He never even came out against impeachment until the end. The guy's a never Trumper. Trump's backing Denver Riggleman, and that doesn't matter. They're still going to rig it.
Oh, again, I want to tell you this, though. We're feeling pretty confident. So, even with everything that's gone on with the last, how long has it been now? 6 or 7 months, John?
Yes.
Since this ridiculousness started. It's been a while, and you talked about the president, and when Jim Jordan called and said, hey, what do you need? Steve Scalise, I talked to last night. They keep asking this question. And, John, I think this is the question we had to keep asking, and I think you made a great point at the beginning is, what is going on with the 5th District of Virginia, but what's up with the Virginia Republican Party? I get that question in Congress probably more than any other congressman about their districts and about their Commonwealth or states, because they said it seems like it's completely broken. And the last 10 to 12 years has been so bad for the Republican Party. They're not quite sure how to get their arms around it. And they really don't trust Virginia and the Republican Party. And I think that's what we got to, somebody has got to step up. And I'm going to be that guy, win or lose. I will step up and say we need to be a Big Ten party. We need to allow everybody to vote, John. How about that? How about that as the first step, as we get rid of these conventions that are now synonymous with corruption, and we have primaries where people can vote, where actually you can go out and vote for your nominee and not even know there's an election going on because you've been taken out of the system because you don't kiss the ring of little party bosses around the Commonwealth. And that's the issue we have, John. And I'm happy to break that apart. I mean, this anywhere else, I think they'd be under a RICO statute, right? It's a cartel. And at some point, we got to break apart that cartel and allow everybody to participate and make sure Republican values reflect what's going on in the Commonwealth right now.
What is happening in the 5th District is a travesty. It's an embarrassment. It's sad. But it continues to happen. This is not the first time they've done this. It's the same cast of characters doing the same thing over and over and over, and nobody seems to be willing to stand up for them, which is sad. With me is Denver Riggleman. What?
John,
Except you. You have.
I
mean, there's no question about it. Big convention. It's a drive-by, like a drive-in movie, but you don't stay. Drop your ballot in the box and flee 15 minutes from Bob Good's house. If you're at the other end of the district, well, you got to leave now to get there by Saturday. And don't miss your time either. Denver, good to have you with us again, endorsed by President Trump. How do you win this thing on Saturday, Denver?
Well, we're feeling pretty confident when you ask about how we win this is that, the simple thing is have more delegates show up, but it's much more than that, right? It's mobilizing those individuals to get out there. It's the calls that you make. It's really the message that you put out there. And I'll tell you, it's about really when you have something so small, you have to do things that are a little bit different. And I'll give you an example. When I was over in Diego, when we were bombing Afghanistan, we had to use massive resources, right, to get to small targets, right? And that's what we're doing right now. We had to use massive resources to overcome corruption. And when you do that, you got to get that message out that this is actually what's happening. And people thought, John, this is such a complex, and I think you were referring to this. It's complex, right? It's opaque. It's not transparent. Mm-hmm. It's corrupt. There's pay to play. There's all these things going on, these multiple layers of corruption and multiple layers of glad handing. And you have to tell you have to get out there and say, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. What I've seen in these conventions, this is my first convention, right, that I've ever gone through. What you're seeing is that it's go small, it's keep it small and control it all. Mm-hmm. But it's also with my opponents, go wrong, stay wrong. Mm-hmm. They started immediately by misrepresenting what I was doing to a very small group of people and then tried to shield those people from us getting to them. Mm-hmm. You take massive resources, you mobilize your voters, you have transportation plans, and you actually use data and statistical modeling to get people out. It costs money. It takes huge resources. I'm a great fundraiser. So we've been able to do things that have never been done in conventions. Is that by getting new voters involved in the process. And new voters are coming out, John, and they are livid that this is how this is done. They said, how is this even a thing? Like you said before, it doesn't make sense. It blows your mind. It's ludicrous. It's crazy. It's disgusting. And at some point, we have got to have somebody who had the resources to break through this. And I'm fortunate that I've had those resources. And we're looking pretty good right now.
So when you say you have to put your resources against a small target, like just give me one example without look. I don't want you to tip your hand to the opponents, but
Yeah, that's
just
well,
give our listeners one little ray of hope here.
oh, it's the hope is huge. So what we found out, I've done 200 delegate calls in the past, I would say, 3 days. And I would say with 80% of the people, you know what the discussion is? It's why is this corrupt? And now what we're seeing is that people are like, listen, you just tell the truth, man. And then they're going to look at our voting records. Now that we're putting out, what has been wrong about everything said about me, people are actually researching the voting records. I had 4 people yesterday say, we saw that he was untruthful about your voting and that you actually voted with the president on infrastructure like border wall and personnel and technology, but you also voted with the president on immigration. I'm like, yeah, that's correct. We've been saying that. We had to get that message through. And now people are saying that the facts will set you free. The truth will set you free. We just have been bombarded them with facts. When you talk about putting a lot of resources on a target, a joint direct attack munition is a 2,000-pound bomb that costs a lot of money. Sometimes it costs 4 or 5 of those expensive weapons with B-1 bombers, expensive crew and training to get to the Taliban in caves after 9/11. So what we have to do is we have to concentrate resources on these small targets to say, here's the messaging we got to get through. Here's what needs to happen. And our team has been able to really do a great job on that, John.
Well, listen, Saturday's coming up. It's in 2 days. You got to get your people out. I know you got a good plan in place. And, what we always find and we always hope for is truth wins out. The Democrats, though, are pumped about you potentially losing. Here's Rufus, one of our Democratic listeners in Richmond. He's an activist. He is fired up. He said, I love crooked Republicans. They get what they deserve. While I don't agree with Denver, I respect what he stands for and his beliefs. I'm excited about him losing this weekend. It will really benefit the Democrats in the 5th District. Can you say Tom Perriello? So you got the Democrats pumped because they know that if you lose, they're going to win the seat.
Yeah,
Bob Good is not going to win that seat. He can't raise any money. No. Nobody knows him. He's going to lose the seat. So I don't know what is the objective here. Nominate somebody. The whole thing is absurd. All right, let's get to some issues, Denver, because you're still in Congress.
Sure.
The president yesterday saying, "Okay, I'm not going to rename Army bases or naval bases. I've had enough. This has to end now." How do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, symbolism over solutions, right? Let's actually have solutions in targeted areas where racism exists. And we don't put a broad blanket over everything or a broad cloth. What we have to do is have a directed way of looking at these issues. But people screaming about the symbolism of names and things like that right now aren't looking at the solutions that we have to have in place to go forward as a country. And I'm working on some of those right now, obviously, with Republicans to see some of those solutions in law enforcement. And I'm going to say this. When you're talking about symbolism or just changing names with wanting to erase history, I'm against that. But when you say defund the police also, that's something I'm against also. I think we should increase the police with training and more resources for individuals and to recruit the best and the brightest into our law enforcement. So I think, again, I think this type of rhetoric divides people. It doesn't unite them. So I think we need to make sure that we look at things in a way that's holistic, fact-based, and statistical. But this symbolism of just removing everything about United States history, I think it's really not. It doesn't look into the future of what we need to do as Americans.
So what do you think about these statues coming down?
I think erasing history is one of the most dangerous things we can do as Americans. Our history is complex, John, and our history is uncomfortable. And I think we have to have context to history. I think, though, if we're attacking, things that happened in our past and our history, I think we need to keep that. We never want to repeat the mistakes of the past, but we certainly don't want to give in to almost hyperbole and emotion. Let's add context to this, but let's not erase United States history. I think that's something that we have to be very cognizant about. And we've seen other regimes in past history to destroy the history of people, whether it's good or bad, to actually rewrite everything. And I think we need to make sure we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, but we also don't use, again, emotion to tear down what the United States history is, regardless if it's uncomfortable or not.
Pelosi has a bill in that the Democrats are going to pass, Justice Reform Bill. Have you seen it, and do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, we're going to look at it. There's some things, sometimes it starts in a bipartisan way as a very good bill. I will tell you what's going to happen. They're going to put poison pills in there to try to force Republicans to vote against it on things that are ridiculous. That's what we've seen. Like H.R. 1, John, the For the People Act, the first one they came out with federal government controlling state elections. Mm-hmm. They immediately poison pilled it where you just can't vote for it. And then they go, oh, look, they voted against the For the People Act. Right? Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. Right? It was a For the Politicians Act. It's For the Lawyers Act. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what's going to happen here. Let's see what the final amendments are. Republicans are looking at it, but what we expect is that we're going to have a bipartisan solution, and then all of a sudden we're going to get poison pilled. So I'll see what happens before I make a comment on that. I'll tell you that.
Denver, do you think that we need, the Democrats are asking for another massive coronavirus stimulus package? Do you think we need that?
Not right now. I think we need to look at certain targeted areas for any type of package. When you're looking at PPP, it now has really been seen as a success. The EIDL program is starting to straighten up a little bit. And by the way, I'm sorry about all the acronyms, but that's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan is EIDL. That's starting to straighten up a little bit. But I got to say, we have to have more targeted areas of liquidity and not, I think, an overarching sort of area where we're just sort of throwing money at everything. We need to have a really targeted statistical look at this. That being said, we are seeing some vestiges of a new wave coming up in coronavirus. So I would say next month, I'm going to say in July, John, you're going to see, I think, another package. I don't know if you want to call it CARES 3 or some other package, but we're going to have to look at liquidity in the markets and to make sure that businesses, can actually make it through this if we do see a second wave of coronavirus.
Are you in favor of opening up public schools this fall?
Yeah, yes, I am. As long as as long as they know what the CDC guidelines are and they think that they can actually, do the right thing. I think opening up public schools really is a locality by locality decision. You have some places go out to, Bland County. I'm trying to remember who has 0 cases in Virginia. Those schools absolutely should be able to open. So let's have targeted openings of public schools rather than just a blanket closing or a blanket opening. I think we can do this in a very common sense way.
Denver, final question. China. Steve Bannon was on my show the other day, Curtis Ellis and others really saying that the time to act on China is now. They're very aggressive in the South China Sea, and the Hong Kong situation. A lot of people coming on and saying we have a very short. Peter Navarro was on the other day. He said we have a very short window to act. What say you?
Well, I'm on the China Task Force, and if people want to talk about the South China Sea, that was my expertise for years, based on their buildup of something called their Integrated Air Defense System and technologies, where they can actually reach out and do power projection in a way we've never seen, right? And that is what should scare people. And I can't go into classified stuff, obviously, John, but when you look at the South China Sea, when you look at Hong Kong and what they're doing there, people need to realize this, and I'll end with this on China. There is no longer one country, two systems, John. It is now one country, one system. Mm-hmm. And if we as Americans don't realize that China is our number one threat right now in the world, I would tell them they need to read and research a little bit more. So that is really the issue that we have right now, and I hope that people realize that this is real. And what happened with COVID-19 and their ability to mask data to hurt countries across this world is just another, I would say, another small piece of proof that China does not want to participate really in the free exchange of ideas and nations and transparency where they can participate in a way that's fair for all.
Denver, good luck Saturday. Make a prediction. What's going to happen?
I'm going to win. I'll win by 10.
Denver says he's going to win by 10 on Saturday. You would blow a hole in the rigors, the corruption. That win Saturday is going to be beyond Denver Riggleman. If you win Saturday, whether it's by 1% or 10, you upend this culture of rigged convention corruption that we have, and you can single-handedly rebuild a Republican Party in Virginia right now, Denver, that doesn't exist. Good luck on Saturday, sir.
Thank you, buddy. And you're right. You win by 1, win by 10. Our people are excited. They're fired up, and it's time to end this type of ridiculousness in Virginia when it comes to GOP elections. And let's go have a great day on Saturday and come together as a party.